Hi folks, it's Brendan from Navigate World Whisky. Today we talk about distillation itself, a process of deriving a spirit, which is obviously hugely important to everything we do at Spirit South Africa. This is a very deep subject, but we were lucky enough earlier to connect with Didier from La Maison du Whisky in Paris, and he does a great job of distilling the key points for us. Check this out.
Hi, Brandon and the Navigate team. So I'm talking to you from Paris over here at the lab at La Maison du Whisky. And so let's talk about distillation, right? So distillation, if we want to, first of all, get a good grasp on the concept itself, what we're doing is we're taking a liquid that already contains some alcohol, so like a beer or a wine, something that's been fermented already that contains alcohol. And we're going to heat this one way or another to kind of extract certain elements and leave behind, strip away certain other elements. So what we're mainly stripping away is water. Basically, if we're taking away water, we're concentrating the alcohol. So that's what distillation is. And most people have a grasp on this concept. You're concentrating the alcohol to get something stronger in alcohol. But that's not all you're doing. You're also kind of selecting different congeners. Congeners are what give aroma, for example. So you're going to be selecting certain congeners that you want to keep and concentrate as well, and discarding other congeners that maybe are less pleasant, a bit rougher, some other elements like methanol, which you don't want, which isn't good for your health. And so this is done different ways depending on the type of still. Now there's lots of different types of stills, but if we had to really break it down into two main families, I would say there's batch distillation, also called double distillation or pot distillation, characterizes, discontinuous distillation. And then you've got what we call columns, which is continuous distillation, something that happens continuously. Now, what's the difference? The simplest form, the batch distillation, the oldest form actually, is basically you're just going to put your alcoholic liquid in a pot, in a kettle, warm it up. It's going to start boiling, evaporating, and this is what you're going to cool down to get your final spirit, which will be concentrated. Now, how do you do selection of aromas and congeners? You're going to do it through time. Basically, you're always heating the same thing, and it's always coming out of the same area. Whatever comes off the still first, like methanol and some unpleasant aromas, you're going to get rid of that. And then you're going to keep what we call the hearts. And then whatever starts coming off towards the end, it's going to be lower in alcohol, it's going to have a bit of a roughness, unpleasant taste as well. So we'll get rid of that too, or maybe recycle it and reuse it. But basically you're using time as your variable to cut the parts you don't like and keep the one you want. And column distillation, so column, why do we call them columns? Basically they're very tall, they can be tall as buildings. These are stills that basically will have a lot of different plates and levels. And so you're doing a little mini distillation at each time, and this is happening continuously. As the alcoholic liquid is flowing into the still, you're pulling up steam from the bottom. There's an exchange, we're not going to go into it, but there's an exchange where basically the steam is going to get stronger in alcohol as it goes up each plate, and the liquid is going to be stripped of alcohol as it goes down, and basically we're going to discard it when it gets to the bottom. So what this does, again, it concentrates the alcohol at each plate, concentrates the aromas and selects, you'll have different aromas at each plate. And here, it's not going to be a function of time because it's continuous. There's no beginning or end, basically. But it's going to be more of a spatial selection. You're going to take it off at column number, 28, for example, and this will be at a certain alcoholic degree with certain congeners concentrated there. And you're going to be taking off your still at that space. And whatever comes out the top, it's always going to be the heads coming out the top, and you'll have the tails coming out lower as well. So that's kind of a more general approach to the two types of still you can have, the pot or double distillation or batch distillation, and the columns or continuous distillation.
Right, so to summarize, Didier explained to us how a fermented beer from grain or wine from fruit can be concentrated through distillation into a spirit of high alcohol. This process leaves behind most of the water, all of the sugars, but can carry through compounds called congeners, which are aroma and flavor compounds that can make it through the distillation process into the spirit that runs out. Didier also characterized pot or batch distillation versus column or continuous distillation, and explained how the distiller uses the cut to discard unwanted, either harmful or undesirable flavor compounds from the resulting spirit. Each distiller will have a different idea about what constitutes the hearts, which is the good stuff, the stuff they want to keep based on the flavor profile they're going for. So what does this all mean? We asked Didier to elaborate a little on what to expect from the two different methods of distillation, pot versus column.
So usually we'll associate batch distillation with heavier spirits, something with more character, more flavor. And this is because basically we're just doing 1 or 2, sometimes 3 distillations, but we're not going to go too high up in ABV. We're going to usually go around 70, maybe 80, 85 for a triple distillation. A column distillation, usually we associate it with lighter spirits. And when I say light, it means lighter in flavor, because it's actually higher in alcohol. Basically, the higher up you go in the column and the bigger your column is, the more you're going to be stripping away water, but also flavors. And so when you get to something at a very high level of alcohol, like 96%, that'd be a vodka, for example, you're going to have stripped out a lot of flavor as well. So this is what we call a light spirit, even though it's high in alcohol. This is something kind of you have to wrap your head around, which is important. Now, not all column stills work that way. You have column stills that maybe you don't have to go up to 96. You can stop at 80, for example, like in the US, or you can have a smaller still, like in Armagnac, and have a very characterful spirit. Rhum Agricole is another one where they have to stop at least at maximum 75, which is basically the same level as in cognac. So, I would say that the character of the spirit, the flavorful, the characteristics that you're going to keep depends more on the alcohol strength to which you distill rather than the process you're going to use. Both processes have their advantages, their disadvantages. But what you really need to keep in mind for the taste of the flavor is basically how high you're going in your distillation rate. All right, I hope that was clear. There's a lot of information all at once. But I'll see you around for the next time. We'll talk about some other stuff. Cheers.
All right, great stuff from Didier as usual. Please go check out his own channel, Le Lab, where he unpacks all sorts of spirit-related themes. It was really interesting to hear from Didier that the distiller's intervention in terms of the cut has as much to do as the method of distillation in the nature of the final spirit. Pot stills are often associated with producing a heavier spirit, and column stills often with a lighter, more stripped spirit, but this is not necessarily the case, as we learned. Also, you would have noticed his emphasis that in the spirit world, a light spirit means light in flavor, not necessarily alcohol. A heavy spirit means fuller in flavor, full of congeners. We like congeners. So I hope this was an informative introduction into distillation. We'll look to unpack some of these aspects in much more detail as context allows in further episodes. But in the meantime, keep your spirits up and see you again.